The alarm screamed through the bridge of the Horizon Dawn. Captain Jiho Kim stood from his chair, his eyes locked on the display screen. A distress signal pulsed red from the Valorian colony on Talos 9. "How many people?" Jiho asked. 40,000 civilians, Captain, answered Lieutenant Mirai Song from the communication station. "They're under attack. Heavy bombardment. They're requesting immediate assistance." Jiho didn't hesitate. "Set course for Talos 9, maximum speed. Alert the Silver Wind, Morning Star, and Pacific Runner. We go together." Dr. Yuna Park looked up from her science station. She had been with Jiho for 5 years, through dozens of rescue missions. The Valorians have always been peaceful. Who would attack them? "We'll find out," Jiho said. His jaw tightened. In 200 years of galactic partnership, humanity had built a reputation. When someone called for help, humans came. Always. Fast, reliable, fearless. The 4 human ships jumped into faster-than-light travel. Inside the Horizon Dawn, crew members prepared medical stations and emergency supplies. Engineer Taemin Kwan checked the ship's defensive shields. Everything had to be perfect. Lives depended on them. 3 hours later, they arrived at Talos 9. The planet hung in space before them, beautiful and blue. But something felt wrong. The colony wasn't burning. No debris floated in orbit. The distress signal still pulsed, but everything looked peaceful. "Captain," Mirai said slowly, "I'm not detecting any attacking ships." Yuna checked her sensors twice. "The colony appears intact, no damage, but the distress signal is definitely coming from there." Jiho frowned. 20 years of command had taught him to trust his instincts. His instincts were screaming now. "Shields to maximum. All ships maintain defensive formation." Something isn't. Space erupted with weapons fire. Ships appeared from nowhere, hundreds of them surrounding the 4 human vessels. Massive warships bearing the markings of the Krathic Empire, supported by vessels from 4 other species. They had been waiting, cloaked and hidden. "It's a trap," Taemin shouted. The first volley slammed into the Pacific Runner. Her shields flared bright, then shattered. The second volley tore through her hull. She exploded in a ball of fire. 3,000 humans died in seconds. "Return fire," Jiho ordered. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Send emergency transmission to Earth." The Horizon Dawn fought back. Her weapons found targets, destroying 2 enemy frigates. But there were too many. For every ship they damaged, 10 more appeared. The Silver Wind tried to cover the Morning Star, but both ships were overwhelmed. Explosions lit up space like terrible flowers. Yuna worked frantically at her station, trying to boost their shields. "Jiho, we can't survive this." "There are too many." "I know," he said quietly. Around them, the bridge crew fought to keep the ship alive. Young men and women who had joined to explore and help others now dying in an ambush. Jiho opened the ship-wide channel. "This is the captain. All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." "That's an order." "Sir, the pods won't all make it," Mirai said, tears streaming down her face. "Some will," Jiho said. "That's enough. Go, now." In the chaos, a few pods managed to launch. One carried Lieutenant Daeho Choi, unconscious and bleeding. His pod tumbled through the battle, damaged but functional. Most others weren't so lucky. Enemy fire picked them off like shooting stars. Dr. Yuna Park refused to leave the bridge. "I'm staying with my ship," she told Jiho. He smiled at her, sad and proud. "It's been an honor, Yuna." "The honor was mine, Captain." The Horizon Dawn died fighting. Her final shot destroyed a Krathic battlecruiser before enemy weapons tore her apart. Captain Jiho Kim and Dr. Yuna Park died at their stations. Around them, the Morning Star became a cloud of debris. In less than 30 minutes, 4 human ships and 12,000 people ceased to exist. The few surviving escape pods drifted in space, silent and dark, hoping the enemy wouldn't notice them. Back on Earth, in the towering chambers of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Hyun Lee received the news. His hand shook as he read the report. 12,000 dead, ships destroyed, an obvious ambush.
He had sent these people out there, trusting the galaxy to honor its principles. He demanded an emergency council session.
Representatives from 80 species gathered in the Great Hall. Ambassador Hyun stood before them, his voice steady despite his rage. 12,000 humans are dead, he said, murdered in a coordinated ambush. We came to help a distress call. Instead, we found betrayal. I demand justice. I demand the Krathic Empire and their allies answer for this massacre. Overlord Thane, the Krathic representative, stood calmly. He was tall and armored, his species built for war. The humans entered the system with weapons active. We perceived a threat. It was a regrettable misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Hyun's voice cracked. You used a fake distress signal. You ambushed rescue ships. You murdered people who came to help. Council Speaker Morn, an ancient being who had led the council for decades, raised his hand for silence. Ambassador Lee, we understand your anger. However, we must consider all perspectives. The Krathic Empire and their allies represent significant military and economic power. War would benefit no one. Hyun stared at him in disbelief. You're saying their power matters more than justice? I'm saying we must be practical, Morn replied. The vote came the next day. Should the Krathic Empire face sanctions for the attack? 79 species voted no. Only Earth voted yes. The council declared the massacre a tragic misunderstanding, caused by mutual miscommunication. No punishment. No justice. Not even an apology. Ambassador Hyun Lee stood in the empty council chamber afterward. Mira, a young Valorian diplomat who had become his friend, approached him carefully. Hyun, I'm so sorry, she said. Many of us wanted to vote differently, but we were pressured, threatened. The Krathic have so much influence. I understand, Hyun said quietly. You were afraid. What will Earth do now? Mira asked. Hyun looked at her with eyes that had gone cold. I don't know, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm going home. Within a week, Earth recalled every ambassador from every station. Every human diplomat, trader, and explorer received the same message. Come home. Now. No explanation given. Human rescue ships that had been stationed across the galaxy began their journey back to Earth. The medical stations humans had built on 30 worlds shut down. The peacekeeping forces withdrew from conflict zones. The explorers who had been mapping dangerous sectors returned. Species that had relied on human help watched them go. Pirates who had feared human patrols celebrated. Warlords who had been contained by human diplomacy began making plans. On Earth, in a secure facility deep underground, Chancellor Kyung-bae met with her advisors. Survivor Daeho Choi was there, his wound still healing, his eyes haunted. They taught us something valuable, Chancellor Kyung said. The galaxy doesn't respect mercy. It doesn't value kindness. It respects only power. What are you suggesting? Asked Admiral Daehyun Sung. I'm suggesting we give them what they understand, Chancellor Kyung replied. For 200 years we've been the galaxy's helpers. They're rescuers. They're peacekeepers. And when we needed them, they abandoned us. So we're going to go quiet. We're going to build. And when we're ready, we're going to teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. How long will that take? Daeho asked. As long as it needs to, Kyung said. But in the meantime, every species out there should ask themselves one question. Where did the humans go? And more importantly, what are they doing in the silence? Across the galaxy, humanity's presence simply vanished. No more rescue missions. No more diplomatic interventions. No more human voices at the council. Just silence. Deep, patient, and waiting. And in that silence, something new began to grow. 5 years had passed since humanity went silent. The galaxy had learned to live without them, though not comfortably. Mira stood on the observation deck of Council Station 7, watching ships come and go. She had been promoted to senior diplomat now, but the job felt hollow. The council chambers that once buzzed with productive debate now echoed with arguments and threats. Without human mediators, conflicts that would have been solved with words now ended in violence. Still watching for them? Asked her colleague, a Delphian named Rel. Mira nodded. Every day, someone has to remember what we lost. What we threw away, you mean, Rel said bitterly. His species had voted against Earth too, pressured by the Krathic Empire. He regretted it every day. Below them, a Krathic warship docked. Its hull bore fresh battle scars. Overlord Thane had become bolder in recent years, conquering 3 systems without consequence. The council issued complaints and fines, but no one enforced them. No one could. Have you noticed the trade patterns? Rel asked. Humans still trade, but only for specific items. Rare metals, quantum processors, exotic elements. They're buying in massive quantities. Buying with what? Mira asked. Their economy should have collapsed without galactic trade. That's the mystery, Rel said. Somehow they're wealthier than ever, but they won't tell us how. On Earth, in a facility that didn't appear on any official maps, Dae-ho Choi walked through endless corridors of construction. The survivor of the Horizon Dawn massacre now wore the uniform of Earth's Defense Initiative, with the rank of commander. Around him, thousands of workers assembled something the galaxy had never seen. Ships, yes, but not like the ones humanity used to build. These were darker, sleeker, covered in materials that seemed to absorb light. Their weapon systems were empty spaces waiting to be filled with technology still being perfected. Commander Choi called Dr. Sora Han from across the construction bay. She was Earth's lead scientist on what they called the Prometheus Initiative. A small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, Doctor, Dae-ho acknowledged. How are the tests going? Sora pulled up a holographic display. The phase shift drives work perfectly. Our ships can now slip between dimensions for short periods. To enemy sensors, we'll simply vanish. And the weapons? Ahead of schedule, Sora said with a thin smile. We've weaponized technologies the galaxy uses for peaceful purposes. Gravity manipulation, quantum entanglement, dimensional compression, each one tailored to counter specific alien species' strengths. Dae-ho looked uncomfortable. We're really doing this. Building weapons designed to kill. Sora's smile faded.
No, we're building weapons designed to prevent killing.
There's a difference. The galaxy taught us that peace requires the capacity for war. We're learning that lesson well. In another part of the facility, Chancellor Kyung-bae addressed a room full of Earth's military leaders. On screens behind her, star maps showed human-controlled space and the chaos beyond. Intelligence reports that piracy has increased by 300%, she said. Border wars have tripled. Species that once cooperated now compete violently for resources. The Krathic Empire continues to expand unchecked. Good, said Admiral Dae-hyun-sung. Let the galaxy see what it bought with our people's blood. How long until we're ready? Asked General Subin. Co-Chancellor Kyung consulted her datapad. 18 months. Then they'll understand what they created when they betrayed us. Meanwhile, at the council, Mira led another delegation attempting to contact Earth. She had tried dozens of times over 5 years. Every message received the same response: polite acknowledgement and gentle refusal. This time she recorded a personal message. My name is Mira. I was there when your ships left. I voted against you, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. I know words can't fix what we did. But please talk to us. The galaxy needs you. We're falling apart without your guidance. The response came 3 days later. Text only, no voice. Earth appreciates your message. However, we remain focused on internal development. We wish the Council well in its endeavors. The coldness of it made Mira's blood freeze. No anger, no bitterness, just professional distance. She realized then that anger would have been better. Anger could be negotiated with. This cold politeness was something else entirely. Trademaster Vex, an independent merchant, noticed something else troubling. He had built his fortune trading across multiple systems, and he paid attention to patterns others missed. Human-controlled asteroid belts were being harvested at an incredible rate. Entire mining operations worked around the clock, extracting resources that then vanished into Earth's territory. Vex calculated the numbers and felt genuine fear. They're building something massive, he told his business partner. The quantity of materials they're processing could construct a fleet 10 times larger than anything currently in space. Or weapons, his partner suggested. Maybe they're preparing for war. Against whom? Vex asked. Everyone? Because that's what these numbers suggest. In a distant system, a Krathic scout ship detected something unusual, an automated human probe drifting in neutral space. The scouts captured it, eager to learn what humanity had been doing during their silence. The probe activated when they brought it aboard. Its single sensor swept across the Krathic ship's interior, recording everything. Then it broadcast a simple message before self-destructing. Earth remembers. Earth is watching. The explosion wasn't large enough to damage the Krathic ship, but it destroyed all the probe's data. The scouts reported the incident to Overlord Thane, who dismissed it as meaningless. Let the humans play their games, Thane said. They're afraid to face us directly. They hide behind their border and pretend to be strong. But some in the council were less certain. Speaker Morn had lived longer than most, and he had seen patterns throughout history. Species didn't go silent without reason. They didn't withdraw and strengthen themselves unless they planned to return. He tried to raise concerns at council sessions, but few listened. The Krathic Empire and its allies controlled too many votes. Species that might have supported Earth stayed silent, afraid of becoming the next target. One species did suffer that fate. The Delphians, a peaceful people known for their art and philosophy, occupied a system rich in resources. Overlord Thane wanted those resources. He manufactured a border dispute and invaded. The Delphian defense forces fought bravely but were overwhelmed in weeks. Their government sent desperate pleas across the galaxy. Please, someone help us. We're dying. The council held an emergency session. They voted to condemn the Krathic invasion and issue sanctions. But no one sent ships. No one sent soldiers. Everyone looked to where humanity would have been, expecting their rescue fleets to arrive. But there was only silence. The humans didn't come. The Delphians fell. Mira watched the final transmission from the Delphian homeworld before communications went dark. Families huddling in shelters. Children crying. People who had done nothing wrong, suffering because the strong preyed on the weak. She thought about the humans who had died at Talos 9. How they had been coming to help. How the galaxy had called their murder a misunderstanding. We deserve this, she whispered to herself. We taught them mercy means nothing. Now no one shows mercy. On Earth in the deep facility, Daiho watched the same transmission. He stood in front of a massive window overlooking the construction bays. Behind him, Dr. Sora approached quietly. Does it bother you? She asked. That we're not helping them? Yes, Daiho said honestly. Every day. But we tried helping. We died for it. The galaxy decided it didn't want our help. And when we're ready? Sora asked. What then? Daiho turned to face her. His expression was cold, carved from stone by 5 years of watching and waiting. Then we show them the difference between humans who help by choice and humans who intervene by necessity. We show them what they should have valued instead of feared. In the council chambers, Speaker Morn made one final attempt to reach Earth. He sent a personal message to Chancellor Kyung Bae, using encryption codes from their old friendship. Kyung, it's Morn, I know you're angry. I know we failed you. But please, if you're planning something, reconsider. The galaxy can't survive another major war. Talk to me. Let's find a peaceful solution. Chancellor Kyung read the message in her office alone. She had known Morn for 30 years. He was a good being who had been caught between power and principle. But good intentions hadn't saved her people. She recorded a response. Morn, I appreciate your concern. But Earth isn't planning a war. We're planning a lesson. The galaxy will learn what it means to betray humanity, not through conquest, but through demonstration. When we're ready, you'll understand. Until then, stay out of our way. The message ended. She deleted it from her system and went back to reviewing construction reports. In 18 months, the galaxy would learn. In 18 months, the silence would end. And somewhere in deep space, in a location no one else could find, the first completed ships of humanity's new fleet powered up their engines. They moved like ghosts through the darkness, testing systems that would change warfare forever. The humans had gone quiet, but they had been listening, watching, learning, and building. Soon, very soon, the universe would understand what true fear meant. 7 years after the silence began, a Krathic scout ship made a discovery that would change everything. Commander Varric guided his small vessel through an unexplored region near human space. His mission was simple: probe the boundaries of Earth's territory and report any unusual activity. What he found made his blood run cold. A massive construction site floated in the darkness. Structures larger than cities stretched across the void. Automated systems worked on projects Varric couldn't identify. He tried to get closer, activating his ship's stealth systems. Central Command, this is Scout 7, I've found something. The humans are building. His communication cut off. His systems went dark. For a moment, Varric saw something move in the shadows between the structures. Something that didn't belong on any scanner. Something that erased itself from detection even as he looked directly at it. Then his ship was simply gone. No explosion, no debris. Search parties found nothing in the area. Just empty space where Scout 7 should have been. At Krathic Central Command, officers studied the disappearance. It's the 14th ship we've lost near human space in 6 months, reported Sub-Commander Trell. No wreckage. No survivors. No evidence. Equipment failure, Overlord Thane declared. Space is dangerous. But Trell wasn't convinced. 14 ships didn't fail the same way. Something was out there. Something was hunting them. On the council station, Mira compiled her research. She had been investigating disappearances for months, cross-referencing reports from multiple species. The pattern was clear. Any ship that got too close to human space vanished. Not destroyed, just gone. She brought her findings to Speaker Morn. We have to acknowledge this. Something is happening. The humans are doing something. Morn looked at her data and sighed. Mira, even if I present this to the council, what do you think will happen? The Krathic Empire won't admit their ships are vanishing. It makes them look weak. No one else wants to anger them by supporting an investigation. So we just ignore it? Mira's voice rose with frustration. We pretend nothing is wrong. We survive, Morn said quietly. That's all anyone does anymore. Inside Earth's most classified facility, Dr. Sora Han stood before a gathering of scientists and military officers. Behind her, holographic displays showed the results of 7 years of work. The Prometheus Initiative. We began with a simple question, Sora said. How do we ensure humanity never suffers another Talos 9? The answer required rethinking everything we knew about warfare. She activated the first display. Traditional combat relies on superior numbers or better weapons. But we took a different approach. We studied every alien species in the galaxy, their biology, their technology, their tactics. Then we designed specific counters for each one. Admiral Daehyun Sung leaned forward. Show them the ships. Sora nodded and changed the display. A vessel appeared that looked like nothing else in human history. Sleek and dark, it seemed to exist only partially in normal space. This is the Wraith-class destroyer. It doesn't have stealth technology. It has something better, phase shift capability. For brief periods, these ships can slip between dimensions. To enemy sensors, they don't just hide. They cease to exist. Gasps filled the room. One officer raised his hand. How is that possible? We adapted technology from the Talvirian species, Sora explained. They use dimensional mathematics for faster-than-light communication. We weaponized it, applied it to ship design. The result is vessels that can appear and disappear at will. She continued through her presentation. Each new technology was more frightening than the last. Weapons that didn't destroy matter but unraveled it at the quantum level. AI warfare systems that learned enemy tactics in real time and adapted instantly. Gravity manipulation that could crush a ship like paper. We also developed biological weapons, Sora said, her voice quieter, tailored to specific alien physiologies. Viruses that would be harmless to humans but lethal to Krathic. Toxins that affect Valorian nervous systems. Genetic weapons for every major species. The room went silent. Finally, someone asked, Will we actually use those? No, Sora said firmly. They exist only as deterrent. Mutually assured destruction. But the galaxy needs to know we have them. Needs to understand that betraying humanity again would mean extinction. Commander Daiho Choi sat in the audience, listening to the presentation. 7 years had changed him. The young officer who survived Talos 9 was gone, replaced by something harder. Something colder. After the presentation, he found Sora in her laboratory. Are we becoming monsters? He asked. Sora continued working, not looking up. We're becoming survivors. There's a difference. Is there? Daiho pressed. We're building weapons to kill entire species. We're creating technologies designed for genocide, which we'll never use, Sora said, unless they force us to. Daiho, you were there. You watched 12,000 people die while the galaxy shrugged. Do you want that to happen again? No, he admitted. But I don't want us to lose our humanity either. Sora finally looked at him. We haven't lost it. We've protected it. There's a difference between having the capacity for violence and embracing it. We're building these weapons so we never have to use them, so the galaxy thinks twice before attacking peaceful humans again. In her private office, Chancellor Kyung Bae met with Earth's Inner Council, 7 people who guided humanity's transformation. They discussed the timeline for revealing their new capabilities. The fleet is ready, Admiral Daehyun reported. 200 vessels of various classes, all equipped with our new technologies. Crews trained and prepared. The question, said General Subenko, is when do we show them? When it matters most, Kyung said. We don't seek confrontation. We wait for the moment when our intervention teaches the greatest lesson. As if the universe heard her words, news arrived the next day. Overlord Thane was mobilizing his largest fleet ever. 3,000 warships gathering at the edge of Krathic space. Intelligence Officer Ji-won Park brought the report to Chancellor Kyung. Ma'am, we've confirmed the target. Thane is planning to invade the Valorian homeworld. Kyung felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Valorians. The species whose fake distress call had led humans into the Talos 9 trap. They had been innocent of the deception, used as bait by the Krathic. Now they would pay the price. When will the attack begin? Kyung asked. Within the week, Ji-won replied. Kyung sat in silence for a long moment. This was it, the moment they had prepared for. But it felt different now that it was real. Lives hung in the balance. Decisions made in the next few days would reshape the galaxy. On the Valorian homeworld, Mira received the intelligence reports. She had returned home months ago, frustrated with the Council's inability to act. Now she stood on a balcony overlooking her city, watching people live their lives unaware of the doom approaching. She tried contacting the Council one final time. We need help. The Krathic fleet is coming. Please send aid. The response was predictable: condemnations, condolences, but no ships, no support. The same response the Delphians had received before their conquest. Mira thought about humanity, about the ships that used to come when people called for help, about Captain Ji-ho Kim and his crew, who had died trying to save her people. She recorded one final message. She didn't know if anyone would receive it, didn't know if humanity still monitored galactic communications, but she had to try. My name is Mira. 7 years ago, my people were used as bait in a trap that killed 12,000 humans. I voted to call their deaths a misunderstanding. I was wrong. I was a coward. I've spent every day since then trying to apologize, to make amends. But words aren't enough. She paused, gathering her courage. The Krathic Empire is coming to conquer my world, to enslave my people, the same empire that murdered your people. The Council won't help us. No one will. I'm not asking for mercy. I'm not asking you to forgive what we did. But if there's any humanity left in humanity, if you remember what it meant to help people who couldn't help themselves, please. We're dying. And we're sorry. We're so sorry. The message transmitted into the darkness of space, toward the region where Earth maintained its silence. In the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, Communication Officer Hanbin Lee received the message. He listened to it 3 times, then forwarded it to Chancellor Kyung Bae. She listened in her office alone. The voice of a young diplomat, probably the same age as many who died at Talos 9. Scared, desperate, genuinely sorry. Kyung closed her eyes. This was the moment. The choice that would define what humanity had become in 7 years of silence. They could let Valoria fall. Let the galaxy learn that betraying humanity had permanent consequences. No one would blame them, or they could remember why they became helpers in the first place. Remember that justice and revenge weren't the same thing. She opened her eyes and activated her communicator. Admiral Daehyun, prepare the First Fleet. Operation Reckoning is active. We're going to war. Across 200 systems in secret staging areas humanity had prepared for 7 years, ships powered up. Not the peaceful explorers that had left the galaxy. Something new. Something the universe had never seen. The silence was about to end. Overlord Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, the destroyer's Pride. Around him, displayed on screens that covered the walls, 3,000 warships waited for his command. It was the largest fleet the Krathic Empire had ever assembled. Begin the invasion, he ordered. The fleet moved as one, entering faster than light travel toward Valoria. Within hours, they would arrive. Within days, the planet would be theirs. No one could stop them. The Council was weak. The other species were afraid. And humanity, the only species that might have intervened, had been silent for 7 years. Thane smiled. He had won before the battle even began. On Valoria, Mira stood with her family in their home. Her mother held her close. Her father watched the news broadcasts that tracked the approaching Krathic fleet. They had perhaps 6 hours before the attack began. Did they answer? Her mother asked quietly, knowing what Mira had done. No, Mira said. The humans didn't respond. I don't think they're coming. Then we face this with courage, her father said, like our ancestors did. But courage wouldn't stop 3,000 warships. Mira knew this. Everyone knew this. They were going to die, and the galaxy would watch and do nothing. In Earth's command center, Admiral Daehyun Sung stood before a holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked the Krathic fleet's position. Blue dots showed human ships now active and moving. All fleets report ready, sir, reported Tactical Officer Yoon-ji Min. The Krathic fleet will reach Valoria in 4 hours, added Navigator Junho Lim. Then we have 4 hours to get there first, Admiral Daehyun said. Activate all phase shift drives. Maximum speed. I want us in position before they arrive. Across 200 systems, human ships vanished from normal space. They didn't travel through it. They slipped around it, using technologies the galaxy didn't know existed. Ships that had been light years away from Valoria suddenly appeared in orbit around the planet. 200 vessels against 3,000. Any military analyst would call it suicide. But these weren't the ships the galaxy remembered. On Valoria's surface, sensor technician Tai-Ho Sung stared at his displays in confusion. Ma'am, I'm getting readings. Ships appearing in orbit, but they're not Krathic signatures. His supervisor rushed over. Show me. The displays showed vessels that seemed to fade in and out of normal space. Sleek, dark ships that absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Ships that moved with coordination no organic pilots should be able to achieve. What species builds ships like that? Tai-Ho whispered. Then the identification codes came through. Earth, human. Every ship transmitted the same message. Valoria, this is the Terran Defense Fleet. We're here. You're safe now. Mira heard the message broadcast across every channel on the planet. She ran to her window and looked up at the sky. Through the atmosphere, she could see lights. Ships. Human ships. They had come, they answered, she breathed. They actually came. Her father stood beside her. But can 200 ships stop 3,000? They were about to find out. The Krathic fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, expecting an undefended planet. Instead, they found human ships waiting for them. Overlord Thane looked at his display in disbelief. 200 ships? He laughed. The humans send 200 ships against my fleet? Are they insane? Sir, his tactical officer said nervously. Those ships don't match any known human designs. Our sensors are having difficulty locking onto them. Then lock harder, Thane snapped. All ships attack formation. Destroy the human fleet. Show them what happens when they interfere with Krathic expansion. The Krathic fleet moved forward, weapons powering up. 3,000 ships against 200. It should have been simple. Commander Dae-Ho Choi sat in the captain's chair of the Requiem, one of Earth's new Wraith-class destroyers. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for 7 years for this moment. Krathic fleet is advancing, reported Weapons Officer Sarah Jang. They're targeting us. Let them fire first, Dae-Ho said calmly. I want the galaxy to see who the aggressors are. The Krathic ships opened fire. Thousands of weapons lit up space with destructive energy. It was a display of overwhelming force meant to destroy the human ships in the first volley. But the human ships weren't there anymore. They phased out of normal space just as the weapons fired, letting the energy pass through where they had been. Then they phased back in, unharmed. Their weapons can't hit us, Sarah said with a tight smile. Now show them ours, Dae-Ho ordered. The Requiem fired a single shot. It wasn't a traditional weapon. The projectile opened a micro-dimensional rift that transported itself through space, bypassing the Krathic shields entirely. It materialized inside a Krathic battlecruiser and detonated. The battlecruiser didn't explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was empty space where a ship carrying 5,000 Krathic warriors had been. Overlord Thane stared at his display. What just happened? The ship is gone, sir. No debris, no energy signature. It's just gone. Across the battlefield, 200 human ships engaged 3,000 Krathic vessels. But it wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. Human ships moved with impossible coordination, controlled by AI systems that thought faster than any biological brain. They dodged enemy fire by phasing in and out of dimensions. Their weapons ignored shields and armor, striking at the fundamental structure of matter itself. One human destroyer released nanite swarms that spread across a Krathic formation. The microscopic machines disassembled 10 ships at the molecular level in minutes, reducing them to clouds of component atoms. A human cruiser generated artificial gravity wells that crushed 3 enemy vessels like tin cans, their hulls collapsing inward until they became balls of compressed metal. Another human ship used electronic warfare so sophisticated it took control of Krathic targeting systems, making their ships fire on each other. Allies became enemies in seconds, sowing chaos through the fleet. Admiral Daehyun watched the battle from Earth's command center. His voice was broadcast on all galactic channels. Everyone was watching. The entire galaxy witnessed what happened next. For 7 years you wondered where we went, he said. We were learning that the galaxy respects only strength, that mercy without power is meaningless, that peaceful species exist only at the pleasure of the violent. You taught us these lessons well. On the destroyer's Pride, Overlord Thane watched his fleet being systematically destroyed. Ships he had spent decades building vanished in seconds. Warriors who had conquered dozens of systems died without ever landing a shot on the enemy. Retreat, he ordered. All ships retreat! But retreating was no easier than fighting. Human ships pursued methodical and relentless. They weren't fighting with anger or hatred. They were fighting with cold, calculated precision, demonstrating superiority. Daeho's requiem closed on the destroyer's Pride. He opened a direct communication channel to Overlord Thane. Overlord Thane, Daeho said, his voice empty of emotion. 7 years ago you ambushed the Horizon Dawn. 12,000 humans died, including Captain Jiho Kim and Dr. Yuna Park. The galaxy called it a misunderstanding. Thane's image appeared on screen. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. Wait, we can negotiate compensation, reparations, whatever you want. You can't buy your way out of this, Daeho said. You established the rules. Massacres are regrettable misunderstandings. No justice. No consequences. So I'm just following galactic law. This is merely a misunderstanding. Please, Thane begged. Mercy. Mercy? Daeho's voice remained flat. Like the mercy you showed the Horizon Dawn? Like the mercy the Council showed when we asked for justice? The Requiem fired once. The destroyer's Pride ceased to exist. Overlord Thane died instantly, along with his entire command staff. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Krathic fleet no longer existed. 3,000 ships reduced to debris fields and component atoms. Not a single human vessel was destroyed, not one. On Valoria, people watched the sky in stunned silence. The massive Krathic fleet that had come to conquer them was gone. The small human fleet remained perfect and undamaged, orbiting their world like silent guardians. Mira stood in the street with thousands of others, tears streaming down her face. They saved us, she whispered. After everything we did, they saved us. But on Earth, in the command center, there was no celebration. Admiral Daehyun looked at casualty reports. 0 human deaths, complete victory, and somehow that felt wrong. We've become very good at killing, he said quietly to Chancellor Kyung-bae, who had joined him to watch the battle. We became what we needed to be, Kyung replied. But there's one more thing the galaxy needs to hear. She opened a communication channel that broadcast across every inhabited system. Her face appeared on billions of screens simultaneously. I am Chancellor Kyung-bae of Earth. For 7 years we've been silent. Now we're speaking and the galaxy will listen. Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will form our own alliance, the Terran Coalition, based on actual justice and mutual defense. Any species that wishes to join us under a new charter may apply. She paused, letting that sink in. As for the rest of you, the species that voted to call our massacre a misunderstanding that stood by while good people died, we have a simple message. Stay out of our way. We tried being peacekeepers. We tried being mediators. We tried being helpers. You taught us those roles were for victims. So we changed. We adapted. We evolved. We don't seek conquest, Kyung continued. We don't want an empire. But we will never again stand by while innocent people suffer. We will never again allow our mercy to be mistaken for weakness. The humans have returned to the galaxy, and we are not what we were. In the council chambers, Speaker Morn watched the broadcast with growing horror. Not horror at what humanity had done, but horror at what the Council had created. They had taken the galaxy's most reliable allies and turned them into something terrifying. What have we done? He whispered to himself. Around the galaxy, species watched the same broadcast. They saw the destroyed Krathic fleet. They saw human ships that couldn't be hit. Weapons that ignored every defense technology centuries ahead of anything they possessed. They understood the message. Humanity had spent 7 years in silence, building and preparing. They had returned not to seek revenge, but to establish a new order. One where justice meant something, where betrayal had consequences, where mercy came with the strength to enforce it. The humans went quiet. Now they were speaking, and the universe listened in fear. 1 year after the Battle of Valoria, the galaxy looked very different. Mira walked through the halls of Coalition Station 1, humanity's new diplomatic center. It was larger than the old Council Station, built in orbit around a neutral moon. 23 species had joined the Terran Coalition. 23 species that had been oppressed, ignored, or threatened under the old order. She passed by representatives from the Valorians, the Delphians, and others who had suffered while the old council watched. They talked and worked together, protected by a simple truth. Humanity would not allow them to be victimized again. Ambassador Mira called a familiar voice. She turned to see Commander Deho Choi approaching. He wore his uniform with the same quiet dignity he always had, but she could see the weight he carried in his eyes. "Commander," she greeted him. "Are you here for the memorial service?" "Yes," he said. "Are you attending?" "I attend every year," Mira replied. "It's the least I can do." They walked together toward the observation deck that had been converted into a memorial hall. Names covered the walls. 12,000 names. Every human who died at Talos 9. Captain Jiho Kim, Dr. Yuna Park. Engineers, scientists, medics, diplomats. People who had been coming to help. Deho stood before the wall, finding the names of his friends. People he had served with. People he had failed to save. "Do you regret it?" Mira asked quietly. What humanity became. Deho thought about the question for a long time. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we had to become weapons to be heard. But I don't regret that we're strong enough now to protect people who can't protect themselves." "Even people like me?" Mira asked. "People who voted against you?" Deho looked at her. "Especially people like you. You learned. You changed. You spent 7 years trying to apologize and make things right. That takes more courage than fighting." At the Memorial Center, Chancellor Kyung Bae prepared to speak. The ceremony was broadcast across all Coalition worlds. She stood before an eternal flame that burned for those lost. "We built this memorial," Kyung began, "not to celebrate victory, but to remember cost. 12,000 people died because they answered a call for help. They died because the galaxy valued power over principle. We built weapons not for conquest, but to ensure this never happens again. We went quiet not to hide, but to grow strong enough that our voice would finally be heard." She paused, looking at the names on the walls. Every person here gave their life believing the galaxy could be better. That species could work together, that mercy and compassion mattered. They were wrong about how the galaxy was, but they were right about how it should be. This coalition exists to prove they were right. In another part of the station, Dr. Sorahan met with fellow scientists from various species. They discussed sharing technology, advancing medicine, exploring new frontiers, the kind of cooperation humanity had always wanted. "Will Earth share the weapon technologies?" asked a Delphian scientist. "No," Sora said firmly. "Those remain exclusively human. Not because we don't trust you, but because we don't trust what could happen if they spread. Some knowledge is too dangerous." "But you have that knowledge," the scientist pointed out. "Yes," Sora acknowledged, "and it's a burden we'll carry so others don't have to. We became the thing we fought against so no one else would need to. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Species continued to leave, joining the coalition or forming their own alliances. The Council's authority crumbled as its economic and military power faded. Former Speaker Morn sat in the nearly empty council chambers. Only 15 species remained loyal to the old order. 15 species too proud or too afraid to admit they had been wrong. He received a message from Chancellor Kyung. He opened it alone, not sure what to expect. "Morn," the message began. "We were friends once. I'd like us to be friends again. The Coalition is offering full reconciliation to any Council species that agrees to our justice protocols. Real consequences for aggression. Real protection for peaceful species. Real accountability for leaders. If the Council agrees to these terms, Earth will welcome you into the Coalition. The past can be forgiven if the future changes." It was an olive branch, a chance to end the divide peacefully. Morn stared at the message for a long time, then called for an emergency council session. On Earth, in a classroom in Seoul, young students learned about recent history. Teacher Jinwoo Kang stood before children too young to remember the massacre. Too young to remember when humanity was weak? Who can tell me what humanity learned from Talos 9? He asked. A girl named Sujin Park raised her hand. She was bright, eager, the kind of student who asked difficult questions. Yes, Sujin? We learned that silence can be louder than words, Sujin said. We learned that peace requires strength, and we learned that the worst thing you can do to humans is make them show you what they're truly capable of. Very good, Jinwoo said. But what's the most important lesson? Sujin thought about it. That we should never have to show people what we're capable of. That being strong means not needing to prove it. Jinwoo smiled. Exactly. Strength without wisdom is just violence. We became powerful not to dominate but to defend. That's what makes us different. In the Coalition's military headquarters, Admiral Daehyun reviewed reports from across controlled space. Piracy had decreased by 80%. Border conflicts were resolved through mediation, backed by the threat of intervention. Species that had been rivals now cooperated under Coalition protection. It's working, he said to General Subin Ko. The galaxy is becoming what we always wanted it to be. Through fear, Subin pointed out. Through respect, Daehyun corrected. Fear of consequences. That's different than fear of cruelty. We don't terrorize the innocent. We punish the guilty. And when we make mistakes? Subin asked. When we misjudge a situation? Then we own it, Daehyun said. We hold ourselves to the same standards we demand of others. That's what makes us worthy of this power. Daiho Choi met with Mira one last time before she returned to Valoria. They stood on an observation deck watching ships come and go from the station. Human vessels and alien ones working together. Do you think we did the right thing? Daiho asked. It was a question that haunted him. I think you did the necessary thing, Mira said. The galaxy needed to change. It wouldn't have changed if you had stayed weak and kind. Sometimes peace requires the capacity for war. But at what cost? Daiho wondered. We built weapons that can destroy species. We became killers. You became guardians, Mira corrected. There's a difference. Killers seek victims. Guardians protect them. Yes, you have terrible weapons. But you use them only when necessary. That restraint is what proves you haven't lost your humanity. Daiho wanted to believe that. He needed to believe that. Earth established what they called the Remembrance Archives, a massive database containing records of every conflict, every betrayal, every injustice in galactic history. It was public, accessible to anyone. The message was clear. History wouldn't be forgotten or rewritten. Accountability was eternal. Species that had committed atrocities couldn't hide behind time or political convenience. The archives remembered. And when someone threatened the innocent, humanity could point to history and say, "This is what happened last time. Do you want to repeat it?" Former Speaker Morn finally convinced the remaining Council species to vote. Would they accept Earth's justice protocols and join the Coalition? The vote was 13-2. The old Galactic Council officially dissolved itself and petitioned to join the Terran Coalition. It was the end of an era and the beginning of something new. Chancellor Kyung Bae accepted their petition personally. She met with Morn in a private ceremony. "Welcome to the Coalition," she said, extending her hand. Morn took it. "I'm sorry. For everything. For not standing with you when it mattered." "I know," Kyung said. "But you're standing with us now. That's what matters." "The galaxy is afraid of you," Morn said quietly. "Good," Kyung replied. "Fear of consequences prevents violence. But we'll earn something better than fear. We'll earn trust. Species will learn that humanity keeps its word, that we protect our allies, that we punish aggressors but show mercy to those who change." High above Earth, massive defense platforms orbited silently, beautiful constructions that looked like art, but contained weapons that could sterilize planets. They were reminders of what humanity had become, what they could do if forced, but they were also dormant, peaceful, waiting, hoping never to be used. In the year since the Battle of Valoria, humanity had intervened in 17 conflicts. Each time they had used minimum necessary force. Each time they had offered peaceful solutions first, and each time they had proven that they meant what they said. The galaxy was learning, slowly, carefully, learning that the new order was better than the old, that actual justice was preferable to political convenience, that protecting the weak wasn't weakness. Daiho returned to Earth after his service term ended. He visited the grave of Captain Jiho Kim, his former commander. A simple stone in a memorial garden where all the Talos 9 victims were honored. "We did it, Captain," Deho said to the stone. "We made the galaxy safer. Made sure no one else dies like you did. I just hope we did it the right way. Hope we didn't lose what made us worth saving." The wind blew through the garden, rustling leave an answer. A reassurance. In the quiet of space, human ships patrolled trade routes and protected borders. They were guardians now. Watchers. Enforcers of a peace they had earned the right to defend. The humans went quiet. Then they showed the universe what true fear is. And then, slowly, patiently, they showed the universe something better. What true justice looks like when backed by unquestionable power. The galaxy was still learning. But it was learning well. And humanity, transformed by betrayal into something harder and stronger, had finally found its true purpose. Not as helpers at the mercy of the strong, but as guardians who made mercy possible for everyone else.